Jason's backpack hit the ground with a thud, but the pain in his chest was far worse. Had he really just been expelled? Just because he was a farmer's son? Principal Carter's cold words echoed in his head. This school is for respectable families. You don't belong here. Holding back tears, Jason walked home, dreading the look on his parents' faces. The next day, as a Billionaire's helicopter roared over the school, every single student and teacher froze in shock. Jason gripped his backpack tightly outside the principal's office, his heart pounding. He had never felt more humiliated. Principal. Carter's cold gaze made him feel small, insignificant. You don't belong in this school, Jason, the man said, voice dripping with disdain. This institution is for students with real potential, from respectable families, not for farm boys. The words hit like a punch. Jason had always known he was different. While other students arrived in luxury cars wearing designer clothes, Jason showed up in second-hand sneakers, smelling faintly of the soil he helped till every morning. But he'd never imagined being thrown out because of that. Clenching his fists, he spoke through trembling lips. I work just as hard as anyone. I earned my place here with my grades. Principal Carter smirked. Grades alone aren't enough. We have a reputation to maintain. Students like you lower the standard. The office door opened and 2 security guards stepped in. Jason's stomach twisted. Escort him out, Carter ordered. The guards grabbed his arms. In the hallway, students paused to watch. Some whispered, others laughed. Jason spotted Mason, the richest kid at school, leaning against a locker. Guess you finally got what you deserved, farm boy, Mason said with a smug grin. Jason didn't respond. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. By the time he reached home, his parents were already waiting on the porch. His mother's eyes were filled with worry. His father's face was grim. They expelled me, Jason mumbled, his throat tight. His mother gasped. His father sighed deeply and pulled him into a firm embrace. We'll figure something out, he said, though Jason heard the uncertainty in his voice. That night, Jason lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, anger and shame burning in him. He had done nothing wrong, yet they had tossed him aside like trash. He wished someone would stand up for him, someone with power, someone who could make them see he mattered. Just as classes were about to begin at Westbridge Academy the next morning, a deafening roar filled the sky. Students rushed outside, shielding, their eyes as a massive black helicopter descended onto the front lawn. Wind from the blades ripped through the crowd. Teachers exchanged confused glances. Principal Carter stormed outside, face red. What is the meaning of this? He shouted. The helicopter door swung open. Silence fell. The man who stepped out commanded attention. Tall, dressed in a sharp, dark suit, polished shoes gleaming, sunglasses reflecting the stunned crowd. 2 more men followed, equally sharp. The insignia on the helicopter's side sent a ripple through the students. Kingston Enterprises. Everyone knew that name. The biggest agricultural corporation in the country. Food, land, development. They controlled it all. The man standing before them was Samuel Kingston himself, one of the most powerful figures in the business world. Principal Carter's rage faltered. He cleared his throat. Mr. Kingston, this is certainly unexpected. How can I help you? Kingston removed his sunglasses, scanning the crowd. Then he said, calmly and firmly, I'm here for Jason Miller. Gasps filled the air. Jason, the farm boy they had laughed at just yesterday. The boy thrown out in disgrace. Principal Carter blinked, flustered. Ah, Jason. I'm afraid he is no longer enrolled. I'm aware, Kingston said. That's why I'm here. The name Jason spread through the crowd like wildfire. Mason's smug face drained of color. Back at home, Jason was still in bed, staring at the ceiling. He'd spent the night replaying everything, the humiliation cutting deep. His parents had tried to comfort him, but the ache hadn't eased. He had worked so hard to be at Westbridge, only to be discarded like nothing. Then he heard it. The unmistakable roar of a helicopter. The house vibrated. Jason sat up, heart racing. Who would be landing a helicopter here? His father was already at the door, pale. Jason grabbed a shirt and ran outside, and froze. The same helicopter from Westbridge now sat outside their modest farmhouse. Stepping out of it, with the kind of presence that could silence crowds, was Samuel Kingston. Jason's mother clutched her husband's arm. That's Samuel Kingston. Jason could hardly breathe. Kingston locked eyes with him and stepped forward. Jason couldn't move. "You are Jason Miller," Kingston said, voice firm. It wasn't a question. It was a statement, like he already knew everything. Jason nodded. "Yes, sir." Kingston looked around the property, the fields, the weathered truck, the small farmhouse, before looking back at Jason. Then he extended his hand. "Your father is Benjamin Miller," Kingston said, glancing toward Jason's dad. "We worked together years ago." Jason's father hesitated, then shook his hand. "Yes, sir. I worked on one of your early projects back in the day," Kingston nodded. "And from what I understand, your son was expelled from Westbridge yesterday." Jason's heart sank. The shame washed over him again. "Yes," he admitted, eyes downcast. Kingston's expression didn't change. "Tell me what happened." Jason hesitated. His father gave him a nod. Taking a deep breath, Jason told him everything. The principal's words, Mason's mockery, the feeling of being discarded because of who he was. When he finished, his hands were balled into fists. Kingston turned to one of his assistants. "Get me a full report on Westbridge Academy's board and administration, now." The assistant nodded, already typing on a tablet. Kingston turned back to Jason. "I do not tolerate injustice. Your father was one of the hardest working men I've ever met. If you have even half his determination, Westbridge made a serious mistake." Jason's father started to speak. "Sir, I appreciate—" Kingston raised a hand. "This is not about appreciation. Benjamin, this is about setting things right." He turned back to Jason. "Get in the helicopter." Jason's breath caught. Kingston's tone was firm. "You are coming with me. We have unfinished business at Westbridge Academy." Jason's mother took a worried step forward. "Sir, what exactly are you planning?" Kingston glanced at her, calm but unwavering. "I'm going to make sure your son gets the future he deserves." Jason exchanged a stunned look with his parents. Just yesterday, he had lost everything, now one of the most powerful men in the year. Country stood in his driveway, telling him to board a Billionaire'S helicopter. He took a deep breath. This was insane. It was impossible. And yet deep down, something told him his life was about to change forever. The roar of the helicopter blades filled his ears as he strapped into the leather seat. He could hardly believe what was happening. Yesterday, he had been humiliated and expelled. Today, he sat beside Samuel Kingston, a man whose name carried more weight than the entire school board. As the helicopter lifted off, Jason looked out the window. His parents stood below, watching with shock and uncertainty. His mother clutched his father's arm, unsure whether to be proud or afraid. He swallowed hard. He didn't know what awaited him, but this wasn't just a ride. It was a mission. Kingston sat calmly, reading something on a tablet while an assistant whispered updates into his headset. Every move he made was deliberate. Every word, important. After a few minutes, he turned to Jason. "Do you know why I'm doing this?" Jason hesitated. "Because you knew my father?" Kingston nodded, then leaned slightly closer. "That's part of it. But there's another reason. I don't believe in wasted potential." He tapped the tablet, turning it toward Jason. "You have a perfect academic record, scored higher than 99% of students in the state. You're not a troublemaker. You were expelled because of prejudice, not because of anything you did wrong." Jason's eyes widened. He had known he worked hard, but hearing it spoken like that, as if his value was undeniable, sent a strange rush through him. Kingston continued. I built my empire from nothing. People like Westbridge's principal believe success is only for the privileged. They think they get to decide who deserves opportunity. They're wrong. Jason clenched his fists. For the first time since the expulsion, he didn't just feel angry, he felt a deep sense of purpose. The helicopter began to descend. Westbridge Academy came into view, looking as imposing as ever with its stone walls and towering entrance. Students and staff were already gathered outside, staring up in confusion and awe. Some pointed, others whispered. As soon as the helicopter touched down, Kingston stepped out with the confidence of a man who owned everything beneath his feet. Jason followed, heart pounding. Principal Whitmore stood in the crowd, pale as he recognized the man approaching. Kingston didn't slow down. He walked straight up to the man who had expelled Jason and stopped inches away. I assume you know who I am, Kingston said, voice calm but sharp. Mr. Kingston, Whitmore stammered. You made a mistake. Kingston cut in. A very expensive one. He turned, addressing the crowd of students, teachers, and board members. This school claims to shape the future, yet it discards hard-working students like Jason Miller without a second thought. Sir, this is a misunderstanding. Whitmore tried. Kingston ignored him. He turned to his assistant. What's the largest donation this school has ever received? The assistant checked. $1 million, sir. Kingston nodded. Then I will donate $10 million, today, on one condition. The courtyard fell silent. You will reinstate Jason Miller immediately, and you will publicly apologize. Whitmore's face turned red. That is highly irregular. You have 5 seconds to decide, Kingston said. Jason stood frozen. The man who had thrown him out now had mere seconds to reverse it, or risk the wrath of a billionaire. Whitmore's lips parted. His eyes darted between Kingston, the board, and the students, many now recording with their phones. 4 seconds, Kingston said. Mr. Kingston, these matters require proper 3 seconds. Sweat beaded on Whitmore's brow. Board members shifted uncomfortably. $10 million was not something they could afford to walk away from. 2 seconds. Of course, Whitmore blurted. We would be honored to welcome Jason Miller back. This has all been a misunderstanding. His voice trembled as he turned to the crowd. I deeply regret any unfair treatment Jason may have received. As principal, I take full responsibility for this oversight and officially reinstate him immediately. Jason's stomach twisted. The apology felt hollow, but it didn't matter. He had won. Kingston let the silence linger just long enough to make Whitmore sweat. Then he gave a nod. The paperwork will be sent to your office. Make sure it's processed today. Whitmore nodded quickly. Yes, of course. As he stepped back, the students erupted in whispers. Some grinned, others looked stunned. He got expelled yesterday, and now a billionaire just fought for him. Jason exhaled. Less than 24 hours ago, he had been humiliated in front of the entire school. Now, he stood beside a man who had just shifted the balance of power with a single offer. Kingston turned to him. This isn't just about coming back. It's about what comes next. Jason nodded, unsure of what to say. Kingston had saved him, but something told him this was only the beginning. The billionaire glanced at his assistant and nodded toward the helicopter. Let's go. We have work to do. Jason hesitated. Wait, I have to stay, right? Kingston smiled slightly. You can if you want, but I'm offering you something better. Jason's stomach flipped. Better? I'm funding a new scholarship program for students like you, overlooked but deserving. You'll be its first recipient. What does that mean? It means you won't just be returning to this school, you'll be moving forward. I want you to train with my team. Learn from the best. Education is important, but experience is what sets leaders apart. You have potential. Jason, I intend to make sure you use it. Jason's throat tightened. A part of him wanted to stay, to prove something to the school. But another part of him knew the truth. This was bigger than Westbridge. This was his chance to rise. His father's words echoed in his mind. Opportunities don't wait. When one knocks, you open the door. Jason swallowed and met Kingston's eyes. I'm in. He stepped toward the helicopter. Less than a day ago, he had been expelled and told he'd never amount to anything. Now he was leaving the school with a billionaire who believed in him. His father stood nearby, watching. Jason turned to him. You always told me to grab opportunities. This is the biggest one I've ever had. His father nodded. You're right. Go make something of yourself, son. Don't let anyone else tell you what you're worth. Jason wanted to say more, but the roar of the helicopter drowned out the words. Kingston's assistant gestured for him to board. Jason took one last look at the students, the teachers, the stunned faces of those who had doubted him, and then he stepped inside. The door closed. The helicopter lifted off. Westbridge shrank below him, the crowd of students becoming tiny dots. Jason leaned back, heart still racing. Across from him, Kingston sat calmly. You made the right decision. It feels unreal. That feeling will pass. Soon, you'll realize you're exactly where you're meant to be. Jason looked out the window. Where are we going? Kingston smiled. To your future. They landed atop a skyscraper in the heart of the city. Jason's breath caught as he stepped out. The building was sleek, modern. The name Kingston Enterprises gleamed in steel. Inside, he passed security, checkpoints, and entered a high-tech office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline. You're going to learn everything here, Kingston said. Business, leadership, innovation. You're not just a student anymore. You're an apprentice. Jason's heart pounded. Why me? Kingston studied him. Because you remind me of myself. I was once the boy no one believed in. Someone gave me a chance. Now it's my turn to do the same. Jason felt a lump in his throat. He thought of all the days he'd worked on the farm, the people who underestimated him, the walls he'd faced. Now, he stood in the office of a man who could open every door. Kingston placed a hand on his shoulder. This is only the beginning. You're going to prove them all wrong. Jason nodded. For the first time in his life, he didn't just hope for a better future. He knew it was coming.